Welcome to Morgellons discussion and microscopy videos with your host, Jeremy Murphy.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to Morgellons discussion and microscopy videos. I'm your host, Jeremy Murphy, and today I'm very fortunate to be able to bring you this podcast replay. It's something that I feel particularly passionate about, keeping people out of Morgellons groups online because they're just not healthy. In 2021, you can go see a Lyme-literate doctor, and most of them now understand Morgellons and have a good idea of what we can start to do to treat it. And most patients actually resolve with appropriate treatment. It may be a little bit longer than the natural course of antibiotics. Some patients may even resolve with just regular antibiotics because really it's not Morgellons. Morgellons is nothing without the infection that results in it. I want to address some misinformation just came out tonight talking about there was a magical study that proved the CDC didn't include any actual Morgellons patients. There was no study that magically proves the CDC study in 2012 didn't actually include any Morgellons patients. Dr. Randy Wymore has been very vocal in the past about claiming that the CDC study didn't include any actual Morgellons patients. If he feels so strongly about it, I urge him to come forward and do an interview online with the Morgellons community to clarify his position in 2021. Because, as you know, anyone can go to look at the CDC study from 2012 and they're going to see 2 Morgellons patients and microscopic examination of what appear to be embedded filaments inside their skin tissue. So if you hear that misinformation, I'm sorry you're being misled. It's for a reason, though, and not necessarily for your own good. Hope you guys enjoy this podcast replay. If you'd like to subscribe, check me out, anchor.fm/Morgellons. On Twitter, we're the Real Morgellons. Real Morgellons on Twitter. Hope you guys have fun, and we'll talk to you soon. Hey guys, and thank you for finding your way to Morgellons Discussion, the podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Murphy, and this show is about Morgellons facts. That is to say, what has been able to be demonstrated for scientific purposes. So, if you hear me saying something about Morgellons disease on this show, it's got to be coming from the scientific world. It has been published in a prestigious journal, and the science, the experiments that went into producing that data are repeatable. So if you're looking for factual information about the Morgellons disease condition, welcome to our show. Hi, and welcome back to Morgellons Discussion, the podcast on Anchor FM. I'm your host, Jeremy Murphy, and today I want to talk about why it's best to avoid online groups if you have Morgellons disease. You know, I'm constantly barraged with information from people that in actuality has nothing to do with Morgellons. However, exposure inside an online group has led people to believe that these unrelated symptoms are a part of the Morgellons condition. Let's be clear though, there is nothing about Morgellons that's ever going to necessitate the need to share pictures of feces, because Morgellons is a skin condition, not a fecal condition. The biggest problem with online groups and Morgellons is that you don't need them to get well, and engaging in them can actually result in a detrimental effect. But the fact is, you do not need to engage in an online group to get well. Really, all you have to do is find the right kind of doctor. And I recommend the functional medicine practitioners because they doctor different than your standard physician. The discipline of functional medicine looks for the cause of your conditions and doesn't simply try to treat the symptoms. But when you go into an online group, you risk the potential of becoming a targeted individual. And this typically happens when you go against the group narrative or challenge a quote-unquote official of the group. There's nothing official about these groups. In most cases, Morgellons Groups online are simply a place for disgruntled individuals to gather and complain about the lack of care for their disease and develop new misinformation to further keep people from securing responsible therapies. These groups often become cults with their own ideas that are most oftentimes not backed up by science. It's very easy for rumors to get started in these groups, and if you're participating and go against the group narrative, you will likely become a target. You do not need a Morgellons group online to get well. You just need the right kind of a doctor. You don't need the stress of being around unhealthy individuals and having them try to exert their influence over your life. Your life is your own. It doesn't belong to an online group of sick individuals who rely on you being sick for your participation, because once you get well, you're not going to want to be in an online group anymore. And that is a threat to the group leaders who count on their numbers being high. They can say, we're the biggest Morgellons group on the internet, and well, that to me just means that they have a very low heal rate. Stay away from them. Do yourself a favor and avoid the online Morgellons group for your own sanity. You can go against the group narrative, but it's probably best if you weren't participating in it. I recommend people go to healthy groups like groups for photography, groups for cryptocurrency, groups for pets like cats and dogs. If it sounds like I'm going out on a limb, it's because I've seen firsthand, not just myself, but from other people who have had to experience abuse from groups. Specifically, Morgellons groups are particularly bad, but any of these illness groups, they're not wellness groups. And I do recommend wellness groups, groups that concentrate on and facilitating the freedom of expression. Even if those ideas run counter to the group narrative, that group narrative can easily become a religion to these people who are desperate for any kind of treatment. But the fact of the matter is, you don't have to go into an online group. All you have to do is find the right kind of physician, and I do recommend integrated medicine, functional medicine, Lyme-literate medical doctors even, because they are more likely to have read the most recent research and understand that the Morgellons condition is nothing special. It's merely a condition resulting from bacterial infection in the skin. That fact, however, often runs contrary to the narrative that a group is trying to portray. Yeah, but the facts of the disease don't change. They can only be elicited over time. And I promise you, they're happening in scientific research, not in online groups. There's just too much liability because there's often no rules, and you could end up feeling like there's some things that you better not say, or there might be repercussions from the group. Hey, you're not alone. We have felt this before. There are others who have gone through the same abuse, and that's all it is. It's abuse. If you feel like you can't say something because you're afraid, well, then whoever's making you afraid isn't facilitating an open forum for you to participate and express your individuality in. You're not going to find that with a Morgellons group online, but you will find that with maybe a photography group, maybe a group about politics, or even religion, arts and crafts, auto mechanics, even aviation groups. There's a whole world of activities to participate in and people to socialize with who have the same kinds of interests as you. But I think people, if they get inside the Morgellons groups, they often stagnate in there, not finding the treatments, getting sucked up into more of these false beliefs, and becoming a component. We're getting there. We're going to get legitimization for this condition along a broad spectrum. And that's one thing that forces people to consider Morgellons groups is the lack of acceptance. When somebody shares a Morgellons study on their Facebook or Twitter page, don't feel like you don't have to like it. And I'm not talking to the Morgellons patients now. I'm talking to people that know Morgellons patients and are related to them, maybe have been friends with them in the past. We need you to like those studies. And hell, that would just be the cherry on top if you could share those out with your friends. It's the lack of engagement that is really upsetting for Morgellons patients. There is factual, scientific, relevant information that people just don't feel like they can engage in. It's very much like the plague when you lay down a Morgellons study on your Facebook profile. All your friends and family just kind of stare at it with a blank look on their face. Don't do that to us. Engage. Show us that you can accept science real science. And like the post, comment on it, say, wow, this is great, factual information about your skin condition. I bet that makes you feel good. But don't do the silence, because in a way, that's kind of a social ostracism. And ostracism is not a healthy way to deal with our problems. Sure, I know it's popular to lock people away and just forget about them because of the stupid mistakes they made. But if you can help a person understand why what they did was wrong and give them an opportunity to make it right, to make up for what they've done, to pay back society, then that person is less likely to repeat the mistake and more likely to help others achieve the same understanding that they've come to know. But when you give someone the silent treatment, what that says is that person is not worth the time of including in the social structure if that person has different ideas. The best kind of groups are accepting of all kinds of ideologies. It makes all kinds of colors to make up the rainbow. So the bottom line is, if you want to get hope for Morgellons, please avoid the online Morgellons groups. You will not get help there. And in many cases, they could end up preventing you from achieving responsible care. I've seen instances where people have been led to believe that they have Lyme disease with no evidence of ever having been bit by a tick, no recollection of being in the woods. Yet the narrative from the online group compels that individual to believe that they have Lyme disease when they could just as easily have syphilis or Bartonella. But if the group is telling that individual that the CDC is bad and all the doctors who don't believe in Lyme disease are bad and they definitely have Lyme disease, everybody has Lyme disease, that's bad. That's a bad narrative because it's not true. And that individual deserves the opportunity to find a physician who is able to elicit what the problem actually is instead of depending on the group narrative to foster their frustration in the medical establishment. Because I promise you, being frustrated is not winning. It is not beating the disease. Going into an online group and griping about it, that might make you feel better to find other people who are equally frustrated, but ultimately, that's not going to help you get through the condition and start to achieve health. Finding a compatible physician, that's the way to go. And I hate that I have to come on here and warn you about Morgellons groups, but I'm not the only person doing it. Start to ask around. You will hear people tell you, yeah, you need to avoid the Morgellons groups, specifically the Morgellons groups. I think the Morgellons groups are ultimately going to go away as the condition becomes more and more scientifically legitimized, and in general, more physicians start to actually address the condition in a responsible manner. But in the meantime, if you hear this podcast, please heed my message. Stay out of Morgellons groups online. They are not going to help you with the health. What do you guys think? You can always leave me a message here on Anchor FM. And if you have any ideas for our podcast, feel free to let me know. We'll definitely entertain any topics, as long as they are, of course, related to the Morgellons condition.